Well, it happened again, almost instantly, because The Witcher Path of Destiny has raised now $3 million Canadian, which of course means that I am legally obligated to save you from your FOMO. These are the 5 reasons you shouldn't back The Witcher Paths of Destiny, also known as Drafts of Randomness. And before you get at me for saying mean things about your favorite toys, well, let me explain to you the premise of this series in case you're new to the channel, in which case, welcome. We love board games here. Board games are incredible. In fact, there are a lot of incredible board games, and there's also a lot of incredible marketing teams. And so the goal of this series is not to pick on the little guy. Again, $3 million. I think we're okay. No, the goal is to make sure that you, the consumer, are getting a game that you are going to enjoy, that you are equally as excited when you hit the back button as you are when it arrives on your door and you get to open the box and unbox it and see the contents of the game. You want to be that level of excitement. You want to be a Mr. Beast video level of excitement as you carry your way through all the years and years and years, I'm talking to you, Trudvang, up until it does eventually deliver at your door. But first, before getting into the reasons why you shouldn't back, just to prove that I'm a really nice, sweet little boy, can I say that when my beard is this big? I don't know. Yes, of course I can. The answer is always yes. I want to talk about the things that do excite me, because as always, there are things to get excited about. So for The Witcher, by my favorite company of all time, Goonboard. I don't know why they put space in between the O, but we know it's Goonboard. We know it's Goonboard. I love seeing this company thrive. I love seeing what they did with the original Witcher game, The Witcher Old World, which raised 6.84 million euros, and honestly was probably a good back. You probably shouldn't have listened to anybody back then who told you that you shouldn't get it. I'm sure he didn't know what he was talking about. I'm still comfortable with my points from back then, but I think it's always exciting to see kind of newer companies. That was one of their major successes. That was their biggest success, put them on the map, and I like seeing people succeed. And they're returning to the well, of course, because what's better than a board game but a board game with an existing fandom to get people already excited about it? The main mechanical thing about this game that really interests me a lot, let's see if they even highlight it. Card drafting, hand management, branching storyline, no. Game conclusion, no. None of those interest me whatsoever. Okay, they interest me a bit. But what interests me is when this branching storyline is determined, you're going to go to a page. We'll cover the mechanics as we go through because it's all tied together, right? And I like to look at games mechanically in order to, well, slap some sense into you that you haven't. But the main thing that gets me really excited about this game is that everybody has an asymmetric character, and you don't always want to win. You don't always want to get points for being on the right side of history, so to speak. You're going to basically be choosing between 2 different things depending upon symbols of your cards, and whatever more symbols are laid down, well, then you move on to that aspect of the story. But the exciting part to me is that if you aren't in that majority, you're in the minority, you get experience points. And so it kind of reminds me of Quacks of Quedlinburg in a sense of you can choose to get points or you can choose to develop your character a little bit more. And so that was the main thing that was exciting me about this game and making me contemplate backing. Will I? I'm not sure. Let's see how the other mechanics fare up. Again, if you like minis as well, that's another thing worthwhile. Hey, my character does that in Fortnite. That's another thing that I totally understand, people being drawn in by the allure of the minis. I always thought the minis for The Witcher Old World looked really cool, at least the renders did. And so it's lovely to see such kind of dynamic poses as well. And it kind of encourages us to back, right? There's this feeling, or at least in me, and probably in you, because you and I were the same. There's this feeling where the minis and the shiny and the quality of product that Kickstarter and GameFound can provide, and BackerKit would have you believe that they can provide, it's alluring, right? I absolutely register and recognize that allure, but we are not here to be lured. We are not here to listen to the siren song. We are here to be strong like the Witchers. Pull out our big broadsword of FOMO and say, FOMO no mo. FOMO no. I don't have a. Nobody sent me a sword yet, so I can't really do that yet. I was sent this knife though. FOMO no mo. Legitimately. This knife, this used rusty knife, arrived in a box addressed to me from someone I know, and it was in with a package that I was expecting. I was not expecting this knife, but now I can say, now I can join the club. Now I can join the YouTube club. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the 5 reasons you shouldn't back The Witcher Paths of Destiny, and we're going to get into that right now. And reason number 5 rather, is if you are getting swept up by the goons of Goonboard. This is not the same game of The Witcher Old World. It isn't. And yet, all the art, I mean, of course it's the art because it's The Witcher and so it's IP driven, it all lends itself to being in the same world when really they feel like 2 different experiences. I still am feeling vestiges of that campaign, The Witcher, that became the 5th highest grossing board game on Kickstarter of all time. It's behind Marvel Zombies, Exploding Kittens, Frosthaven, and Kingdom Death Monster. It's The Witcher Old World. And so I know when this came up, I was remembering my excitement. I remember my excitement from 2 years ago, even. I remembered the feeling of desire and want, and really, when I thought about it, I just kind of took that and I just reapplied it to this new campaign. I saw the minis, I saw the same art style, I saw Dandelion rocking out, and that there was a character called Dandelion, and I thought, you know what, this is obviously better, and everything in me kind of then used that last campaign as a jumping off point. And I think this is important when you look at the prices as well. You can see the conversion into Canadian because that's where I am, Canada, but The Witcher Path of Destiny is only 55 US, right? The standard pledge, 55 US, they have it right there. It's only 52.92 euros. I mean, of course, you're also paying an additional 20 euros in shipping, but we're going to ignore that for a second. It's only 52 euros compared to the 70 euros of 2 years ago. The 70 euros of a larger game that now would probably be 90 euros, you know? And so when you compare those 2 prices and you compare that illusion of value, you start thinking more and more that this is the affordable Witcher. This is the Witcher that is worth purchasing. This is the Witcher that is the deal. This isn't the Witcher that will betray you and give you a subpar gaming experience. No, this is the Witcher that gives you the same gaming experience, but for cheaper. Wouldn't Chris be proud? No, I'm not proud. I'm not proud of myself because I also felt this. But when you look at the contents, the actual game itself, this feels the stretch goals as well, which I'm looking forward to uncovering and looking at in a following crowdfunding countdown much closer to the end of the campaign. Probably the day before it ends, I'll do a follow-up looking at the campaign and seeing if there's anything else that's been unlocked. So if you want to stay tuned for that, well, do the YouTube thing and pinch that like button. But even with the different new tales that they're unlocking, and we'll talk about the tales in a second, actually in point number 3, and the extra characters, and you get to see the minis that, you know, you have to purchase at that $85 level instead of the $55 level. But they're giving you more reason to purchase at that 85 level because they're adding more stuff in, even though they're keeping the tuck boxes for deluxe only, which is so dumb. But we'll talk about that in point number 2. Everything here I feel in the campaign is pushing you towards backing based upon the IP. And I while sometimes that's enough, most times I don't believe it is. They don't even have the rulebook on the main page, which if you've tuned into this channel, you know how much of a stickler I am for the rulebook. They only have the rulebook in the update section, and we're on update 13, and the rulebook is in update number 4. That's where it is. the level at which they want you to engage with the actual game mechanics itself, as I click on the tab that says game mechanics, is sort of the amount of information that you could get from Board Game Geek. There's card drafting, there's hand management, there's a branching storyline, and then the game's over. I don't feel like they ever really want you to engage in the actual gameplay loop itself, and it feels more like they are just trying to sell you a bill of goods through the IP. And while it's great to have an IP-driven game and have that be your focus, and it can elevate games, especially if you're familiar with the IP and the IP sings and it feels thematic and it helps you feel like you're in that world, that's great. But I don't know, that's the sensation that I get when I look at the campaign page. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're not saying, hey, get this, it's better than Old World. No, they're saying, you love Old World, you love us. Please love me, Daddy. Please love me one more time. Like that Britney Spears song, I think. It just feels like they are able to kind of rest upon their laurels because they did such a successful campaign last time and people really wanted it. And I don't know if we should let them get away with that much, you know? I think we deserve to know a little bit more. Anyway, let's move along to reason number 4, and this should be a quick one. I shouldn't have to talk about it too much, but you see all these beautiful minis and the beautiful minis that are drawing you in and making you jump up to that extra pledge level because you're getting that feeling of value because you get the little minis that are cool. They don't matter. They don't matter. They feel very extraneous because basically what you'll be doing is you'll be taking a mini off of this little row and you'll be putting it on another spot and then you'll be putting it back from whence it came. And you're going to be doing that over and over, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's not like you're going to be playing some epic tale where there's a huge board presence, you get to move your little figure around the map. I mean, in The Witcher Old World, it felt like the minis were more earned, even though the minis were also a little bit extraneous because they appear off the board and then just appear really quickly and then get taken off, the extra deluxified components. At least your character pieces felt like they had a little bit more weight as you traveled around a map. In this one, it just seems like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And if you like your games with table presence, I don't believe this is the game for you. I think it is billing itself as a game with minis, and I don't think the minis are going to serve the game, and I also think that potentially, maybe, worth considering, is going to give people a false sense of how epic this game is going to be or not. Now let's move along to the tales. The branching storylines, the tales, and the variability that this provides. And my reason number 3 is, even with the asymmetric characters, and the different modes and modules that you can play, I don't believe that's where the replayability will come from. Reason number 3 is it's replayable, but not in the way that you may hope. From what I have watched in terms of their own videos, their how it works, their focus on the tales and the difference, reading through the differences of these little modules, I've been a little bit underwhelmed, to be honest with you. I think there is going to be a lot of replayability there because you're going to have a deck of cards that all do different things. And that's going to be exciting. That's going to be where the bulk of the decision-making space happens. It's going to be when you're choosing your action cards and playing them into your tableau. And even the prospect of asymmetrical characters, these different characters, you can see behind them, you can see right here, all of the skills that you can level up. And because I was so excited for that experience points and checking off different skill boxes and figuring out how to use my character in a unique way, this was the game that I was sold. Then when I looked into it more seriously, you actually notice that your character grows in a static way. And I guess they have to grow in a static way in order for the skills to be balanced. But for my personal asymmetric preferences, if I am getting experience points along the way, I want to have more agency. I want to have a choice of skills as it seems to be put forward, and I don't think they are offering you that choice. I think there's a lot of illusion of choice in this game. You have an asymmetric character, but they will progress in the same way each time. You have these different game modes, you have these different branching storylines and branching story paths, but they're based upon symbols. And what happens when only a few of those symbols turn up and you're not first in the initiative order? What happens then? I think you know what happens then. You don't get to make any choice of if you're going to go for XP or if you're going to go for victory points. You just get to enjoy the beautiful catch-up mechanic that I really genuinely think it is. Beautiful, I mean. Now, you probably will have some agency, I guess, because there's 3 rounds that happen, but it's like, it feels very beholding to whatever cards come up and not necessarily whatever choices people take, right? Because the board will be broken down, this main board over here. You can see there's 5 slots, but in most cases, in a 3-player game, a 4-player game, or not even a 5-player game, less than a 5-player game, most cases, there will only be 2 cards that aren't chosen. And so the amount of agency there, I'm not convinced, will be enough to feel like you are controlling the outcome. So I guess this isn't necessarily a point about replayability, but how much player choice you get. And so let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is a simple one, which I'll of course expand upon. Number 2 again deals with these storylines and the fact that they're friggin' cards and not books. And this is a bad design decision. If all that these storylines serve to do is to tell a story, why do they exist in a big stack of cards that you then can pick up and fumble out of your hand like I do every time I pick up anything from Chip Theory? Why make this design choice? Why not have your own individual spiral-bound book of tales that you can flip through? It's just a little thing, but it feels that they're not making it easy for the players to access and to flip through. And speaking of the story, this is actually the real reason number 2. You shouldn't get this game if you're hoping for a narrative game. And I don't necessarily think that they've been pushing it too much as like a narrative game. It's not a narrative campaign game by any means. But with all this talk about lore and story, the idea there is that you will unfold your destiny. There will be paths of destiny, and you're going to see what happens. And the story text, to me, feels like flavor text. It's just going to be a fun little flavor thing that might have a minor impact on the rules moving forward to say, oh, every time you play a sword, you have to play 1 more. Or because 1 breaks, and that's because the evil sword breaker was walking down the road at this exact moment as you were choosing this path for your destiny. And then he scurried after you and stole your swords because he lives on swords. I've taken that directly. It's a direct quote. That's a direct passage of text. That if it isn't in the final cut, well, it's only because I saw a pre-production copy, I swear. But you know what I mean? I think if you are expecting a narrative game or a game that will give you lots of story and lots of enjoyment, you are wrong. You are in the wrong place, and you should seek out a different thing. This is a pure drafting game. For sure. Card drafting is at the foremost, and that's also something that excited me. I love card drafting. I think it's very fun. I like thinking about what's going to happen if I don't pick things. What will other people pick? I'm not actually sure that this will scratch that card drafting itch either, personally, and that leads us to our reason number 1. I think there are going to be better drafting games out there, or more robust systems. This is a very simple system. If you're looking for anything complex, this is also not a place to be. I don't think complex or simple either is a good or bad thing, but I just think it needs to be something that you're aware of. And I think the minis are there, again, to distract you from a lack of concrete and tangible gameplay. I think for a card drafting, tableau building game, it's overpriced and overproduced. And I think for cheaper, you can probably get more exciting games as well. I mean, it's not bad. It's not a bad price. Is it a bad price? I don't know, honestly. See, they zoom in so much, so you have to scroll further, so it feels like you're getting more. Every story has 23 cards, and so you're getting 157 cards, 72 large tail cards. I suppose this is a wingspan amount of cards. I think it's an all right price for what you're getting when you don't factor in the shipping. Remember, if you factor in the shipping, this is actually a $75 game. That's why you always look at the shipping and taxes table and then factor that into your decision. But I think that this is the style of game that I would prefer would come in a small box, something I could travel with, something I could pull out and play quickly without necessarily all the pomp and circumstance and setup choices that the Tales, the small tweaks and modules will give you. I think it's nice having all those different modules built into it, but the modules themselves feel a bit like there are these modules in Rising Sun, which is one of my favorite games of all time. Well, it's my favorite game of all time. I can't believe I said one of. There are these little modules that CMON put out way later after the game was going on, and you can play with one of them every game, and it does something in a province. And while modules are fun, I don't really use them. I care about the core experience, and the core experience of the game is very simple. You choose your card, you place your person down, you bid, essentially, you claim the cards that you want to add to your hand. You probably play both of those cards, or keep one till later. Keep one down the line because it has a different symbol. You get some tokens, and then you turn tokens into other tokens. And then you use those tokens for points. It seems fun, but for 75 US, which is over $100 Canadian, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of this game, Reviving Kathmandu, which was from this smaller company, Lemery Games. You're bidding on sections of cards. It's again tableau building and drafting, but it's more bidding in a sense. And I like this structure a lot more because nobody's blocked out from bidding. If you go back to The Witcher and this card drafting access, and you just happen to go first, and then the best cards happen to turn up in the first position, which then enables you to go first again, that doesn't excite me. I would much rather something along the lines of King Domino, and how King Domino does it, where each card is weighted and goes into a specific spot. Maybe they're doing that. If they did, I certainly missed it. But there are all these other games that exist out there that I think of as similar lightweight drafting games that you can probably get for cheaper. Well, you can definitely get for cheaper, and immediately fix some of the things in here where I go, well, that's a bit odd. I don't know how I would feel about that if that were to happen to me. I try to think about the closet cases, right? I try to think about introducing this to somebody who it will be their first board game ever. It will be that experience. And what will happen if they hit these weird cases? That's the standard at which I'm trying to evaluate all of my games, my own purchases. And I just feel like this one still has a little more buffing out the edges. And hey, they may change that, right? Like there was a lot of feedback in the original Goon board, The Witcher Old World, Revenge of the Goons, that they went back and they added in a bunch of these extra things. They added in the Wild Hunt, or they added in the monster deck or something. They really listened to feedback from reviewers. And so there's always the ability, that's the beauty about crowdfunding, for them to keep on playtesting and keep on creating a really wonderful and great product. For me, the sketch of what is to come doesn't sell me completely, because I feel like I already have games that do a similar thing, and they might do it quicker, they might do it cheaper, and they might do it better. So I don't know. This one I really wanted to buy. I really did. I saw the $55 price, and I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll get this one. I kind of regretted not getting The Witcher Old World, not because I think I would actually enjoy the game. I've heard it's pretty good, actually. I know a bunch of people who are enjoying the system of the previous one, but I kind of regretted it because of how much money it raised and how many stretch goals they were able to add in. And that's not a good reason to back a game. I can still regret not backing it, but I know it is not a legitimately good reason, at least for me, and what my personal gaming goals are, which are to play the games and not just to look at the games and stroke the games and give the games hugs and kisses. I do that when the cameras are off, thank you very much, and I don't want anybody to know about it. No, my goals are to play them, right? And so I just don't know if this will get the play over those other games in terms of how it serves in that collection. So there you go. Those are the 5 reasons you shouldn't back The Witcher. I feel more confident about this one than I have for some in the past. And maybe it's because the mechanics, well, no, it is because the mechanics didn't resonate with me as much as I was hoping they would. But hopefully, you know what? I hope that if you are backing this game, that they absolutely resonate for you. And please let me know in the comments down below why you are backing it. What gets you actively excited? And if you're not, let me know why as well. If you looked at the campaign and said, not for me, and you have something to add, I think all of that is incredible, and it's always very helpful for people as they scroll through the comments, as I always do when watching a video, hearing from all of you in this lovely community we have built. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Chris George, and I do not have a catchphrase. But I look forward to reevaluating this at the last day of the campaign so we can squeak in just under the wire, and I cannot tell any of you. Thanks for being here, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day.